audience who doesn't know what we have in store for him. We're planning to pay tribute to him because he's a hero in every sense of the word. On June 24th, 1982, a train from Seattle and bound for San Diego caught fire. The train came to a halt in the Cascade Mountains of Northern California. When firefighters arrived on the scene, most of the damage was done. 2 sleeping cars were destroyed, 57 passengers were taken to the hospital with smoke inhalation, and 2 passengers died. More passengers would have died had it not been for the superhuman efforts of a young actor in the train who was returning to LA from his honeymoon in Washington. After getting his bride to safety, he returned to the burning train and awakened the rest of the passengers and escorted them to safety. He is credited with having saved the lives of at least 6 people on the train. Dennis Bowen, would you please stand up? What a pleasure. Dennis, you are definitely some kind of hero, and I want to tell you, it's an honor to have you here with us today.
Oh, it's an honor to be here. It's also a shock.
I know, but your wife, Laurel, come here, Laurel. Come over here. Oh, hello, little bun. Come over this side. Pleasure to meet you, and I know, Dennis, you are in shock because you had no idea why you were here today. What did you think we asked you here for?
Oh, I don't know. Laurel said we were going to come down to audition or something. I have no idea. We're always auditioning for something anyway.
I can't believe I pulled this one off.
Well, we are very happy that you helped us with this, and we want to thank you. And by the way, when is the baby due?
It's due in about 6 to 8 weeks.
Get the water boiling backstage. You never know.
I know.
Dennis, could you just give us a short rundown of exactly what happened on that awful night?
Well, we were coming home on our honeymoon. We had just been honeymooning in Victoria and Vancouver, had a great time, and Laurel woke me up around 1:30 and said that she smelled smoke. I told her to go back to sleep. It was just somebody smoking cherry tobacco. And we got off the train and realized that our friends, the Lenharts, who were across the hall from us, a great couple that we had a ball with, they weren't out. So I informed some people that they weren't there, and it seemed like no one was moving toward them. So I went back in and found them and 4 other people in that particular part of the cabin. And later went back in for another person, Mr. Moore, Douglas Moore, who later passed away from smoke inhalation.
Oh, my goodness. Well, let me ask you a question. What was going through your mind as your husband's running back and forth in this burning train?
Well, I knew that it was his destiny. I honestly felt that at the time, and I was fearful for him because there were no lights, and he was in the smoke.
All
and
in the dark?
All in the dark, 2 o'clock in the morning, no warning. Dennis was crawling on his hands and knees, waking people up, and even carried Mr. Lenhart to safety. I felt really proud, but I'm also not that surprised. I believe it was his destiny. Yeah, God's will.
Well, you know, we received a letter. You're going to get... He's going to get you, Laurel. You know, we received a letter and a clipping from a newspaper all about you, and it was from a man who said it was his fantasy to do something nice for you, Dennis. And in his words, this would be a good way to say thank you for saving our lives. Now, can you imagine who wrote us that letter?
Yes, I think I can. Is he here? Mr. Lenhart here?
Here from Desert Hot Springs is one of the couples whose lives you saved, Henry and Elda Lenhart. Why don't we come right down here? Come on right down here in the front. Why don't we all stand right down here?
Great.
Put you over here. We'll all share the microphone. Why don't you come over here? Okay. They got you real good. Well, Henry, I'd like to hear the story from your point of view. What happened?
Well, we left to Seattle the 24th of June, got on the train, headed home after a nice vacation up in Oregon. And 2 o'clock in the morning, this train caught fire. And the wife and I don't know, we was either asleep or passed out, I don't know. Anyway, we heard somebody beating at our door and screaming to the top of his voice. And finally got the door open. He got us out and got outside. And I guess I wasn't moving fast enough for him. I was barefooted.
Oh, I guess so.
And so he piled me on his back and carried me down this little incline. And when he got down there, he sat down, took off his shoes, gave me his shoes.
Gave you his shoes?
Gave me his shoes, and he walked barefooted over to where the rest of these people were standing, and when he got over there, he says, give me my shoes. And I gave him his shoes, and back into that train he went.
Well, you know what? You are some kind of gentleman here, and we know that the elders, you know, we can't see you. Why don't you straighten out, so we can see your pretty faces there. Why don't you tell him exactly how you feel? You have him face to face.
Dennis Bowen, I'm proud on TV to tell you how grateful I am and thankful for saving our...
Now, you know, Dennis, Henry's fantasy for you was very specific. And, well, you want to tell us what that fantasy was?
Well, I know that Dennis is a struggling young actor.
Yes.
He's going to be a good one. But I know that his funds are pretty low, and I know he has a rattle trap of a car.
Oh.
And so, my fantasy for Dennis Bowen is a good used car.
Well, you know what, Henry? Speaking of cars, reminds me that, well, we haven't told you really about Dennis's acting work. You see, he starred on an Archie TV series. He's been on Welcome Back, Kotter. He's also been on other series like The Incredible Hulk and How the West Was Won. And he's also appearing in this commercial. If you watch the monitor.
Hey, Jim, I'd love to see your new Datsun Sport pickup. So would I. I haven't been able to get near it.
With the Datsun Sport pickup, you better get used to the crowd.
I know there's racing stripes on the side. Excuse me? See? And white smoker wheels. Buckets. 5 speeds, just like a sports car. Look! Another Datsun Sport pickup.
So, you know, that brings us back, Dennis, to Henry Linhart's fantasy. He said times were tough for both of you guys and that he wanted you to have a good used car. So we'd like to ask you a few questions, if I may. Do you need a car with a front-wheel drive? Do you need a car with an AM/FM stereo? Do you need a car with room for 5 people to ride comfortably with one coming on the way? Boy, do you need this car. Stand right here, because it's coming out.
Oh, wow. Isn't that a beautiful thing? Isn't that a beautiful thing?
And
We didn't know how we were going to get home from the hospital.
they didn't know how they were going to get home from the hospital, he said. Well, you know what else we did? We contacted the people at Nissan Motors USA, and they would like you to have this Sunfire Miss Wagon Deluxe car, featuring a powerful 1.6-liter overhead cam engine with lifting tailgate and luggage rack, in recognition of your incredible heroism. Do you need this car?
You bet.
So, Henry, I know this Datsun is going to fit the bill.
Oh, thank God.
Dennis,
That's great.
you've got your new car. But wait a minute, we're not finished. You see, you've got your new Datsun here, but you also need an acting job to drive to. So, you know, Dennis, being in this business, it's who you know in Hollywood that's important to your success.
You're kidding.
You didn't know anybody. And I remember, we have the violins, when I was a struggling young actress, I'd have given anything for an interview with the head of talent for a major studio, would you?
Yes.
Dennis, meet the Vice President for Talent for NBC, Joel Thurm.
Hello, Joel.
Welcome, Joe. Come on in here. Try to get in here with this crowd. Joe, have you seen any of Dennis's work?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I have. You may not know it, but I have, yes. Fantasy sent some cassettes up, and I'd also seen your work before that, too.
What qualities were there about Dennis that you felt that you'd like to talk to him more about?
Well, there was an honesty and an openness. Very obviously there. It's true.
Do you have anything you think for Dennis? Because there's a baby due here any minute.
Well, you know, as a matter of fact, it's just this very honest and open quality. So I actually sent your cassettes over to MGM that does a show called Chips to casting director Jerry Franks. He in turn knew you. And he took the cassettes and took it to the producer, Paul Mason, who also knew you because of Archie and also of Kotter. And using this open quality, you have a guest starring role as a thief.
I'll play anything.
No, and it's...
You mean I don't have to read
no,
for it?
you don't have to... No, really.
You don't have to read.
They knew you.
A job without an interview.
You don't have to read. They looked at it, and it works for them. And you play Renslow Johnson II in the episode Funhouse.
See, prayers do miracles.
It's on March 15th.
March 15th.
You
Dennis,
start work next week.
I'm not going to even ask you how do you feel because I know how you feel. But I just, the babies do then? Oh my goodness. Well, we'll work around
I
it.
have one other thing.
Yes.
Hi, Peter Marshall here. Would you step over here?
Yes.
Hi. You know, we were thinking, we use guest hosts all the time on Fantasy.
do, yes.
Like we have our guest host today, young Michael Damian, and we've had Greg Marks from Days of Our Lives. We thought it
Brian
might
Mitchell.
be Brian Mitchell from Trapper John. Have you ever done daytime television? Anything like this?
Nothing like this, no.
Don't you think this gentleman would make a nice co-host?
Yeah!
Well, you're coming back to be our co-host.
Oh, thank you so much.
All right, and maybe by that time the baby will be here,
That's
and we'll
right. And
we'll introduce the baby on national television.
That's right. And all I want to say that this is what our show is all about, making fantasies come true. We want to thank the Linharts here. We want to thank, naturally, Nissan Motors for this beautiful Datsun. And we want to thank Joel here for coming up with some wonderful work for Dennis. And
Joel, you
good
have
luck
a
with the
beautiful voice.
baby.
Never thought of radio.
You very much. Very much.
Coming up, an adoptive parent shares her child with the natural mother. And next, the dream of glory comes alive on the mighty Mississippi.